All right, you're aware of the answer to question 12 from the February estimates about ABC employees and contractors breaching your own social media policy on social media platforms. And yes, there were against Labor politicians, there were against Liberal politicians or coalition politicians, but surprise, surprise, none against Green politicians. And once again, I suppose that's just another sample to be discounted.
Well, Senator, the only thing I'd say is that the ABC is the absolute leader in the use of social media in the Australian media landscape. We have hundreds of social media
and why does
sites.
It only never offend
Senator, the thing I'd say, Senator, is that we have literally hundreds of Twitter accounts and Facebook accounts that are providing a constant feed of updates through the day, every day. Thousands and thousands, tens of thousands, probably hundreds of thousands of messages that are going out on those accounts. But again, if you're going to draw sweeping conclusions from such a tiny sample, Senator, I think that is overstating it, and I wouldn't be drawing those conclusions from this data.
Mr Scott, do you believe that any serving Member of Parliament would want a race war with Australia's Indigenous community?
Well, Senator, I don't understand the context of that, that question.
Right, but can we be agreed that that is quite a ridiculous proposition?
Well, Senator, I'd like to know
Why then would, on the 5th of May this year, your recently appointed fact-checker, Mr Russell Skelton, have retweeted Abetz and Christian fundamentalists want race war begins in September?
So who originally tweeted it?
Marcia Langton.
Yeah.
Well, I happened to only find out about this yesterday, find it highly offensive, and of course it is completely and utterly without foundation, and yet your Mr Fact-Checker has gone about retweeting it.
Well, Senator, if you have issues with what people are saying about you on social media, you're not alone, Senator, and
yes,
that is the
right.
social media experience that we've all had. I'm not
race that war might just be in a little bit of a different category, with great respect.
Well, Senator, I'm not going to those facts. I'm
very conveniently
no,
not.
Senator, and nor, Senator, am I going to talk about.
Well, can we believe that Mr Skelton will be impartial when checking the public statement of politicians?
Yeah.
When just last July he tweeted, "Abetz extremism on display." Are we to assume this is a display of impartiality by Mr Skelton?
Senator Abetz
Can I ask then,
Let's
you
move
talk
on.
about individual tweets, and at least that smile then acknowledged Mr Scott, and I appreciated that.
Let's be clear,
Can I ask then, what about this tweet?
in my view, that tweet is likely to be completely factually
Minister,
accurate.
order. Senator Abetz.
Thank you. Can I ask about this tweet from your fact-checker, also about Mr Abbott?
Again,
no
probably factually
statesman
accurate.
with no style. Is this also indicative of an objective mindset?
No, an accurate one.
That a
factually
Labor
accurate
minister
one,
would say it, I think
would
tells
check
the
against
whole
the facts.
story for us. I'm sorry, Minister.
That would check well against the facts.
But what about last August when Mr Abbott, Mr Skelton tweeted that Mr Abbott was revealed to be a shameless opportunist that he is, and he was red-faced, Windsor nailed him to the floor. Is that another clear exhibition of the absence of bias?
I'm confident that's
by
factually
Mr Skelton,
accurate.
Mr Scott?
I am confident that was a factually accurate statement.
Mr Scott.
It will be what evidence is brought to bear. He's
Yeah,
testing the
I think
evidence.
Mr Scott, you've made that point on a number of occasions.
What about
Senator
Mr
Abetz.
Skelton's wishful tweet about a Nielsen poll, Abbott now a liability, a proverbial albatross? Mr Scott, how can you credibly maintain
That'd be
that
factually
Mr
accurate as
Skelton
well.
will bring impartiality to this sensitive
that would be factually
and
accurate.
and this newly created role?
He'll be judged on his work, Senator.
All right, or what about your impartial fact finder making it his personal business to cross swords with Mr Abbott when he responded directly to a tweet from Mr Abbott about repealing the carbon tax by tweeting, "Don't you have to get elected first. Mr Scott, you might be surprised to learn that Mr Skelton's prolific attacks aren't only confined to Mr Abbott and myself. Mr Scott, can you tell me why Mr Skelton would have recently retweeted the accusation that Senator Joyce is a dense, opportunistic carpetbagger, as well as another tweet suggesting the electors of New England were fools if they elected Senator Joyce?
Well, both would be factually accurate. What's the problem?
These are just part of a series of offensive Skelton tweets about Senator Joyce.
And your biased political view,
we could be here
offensive.
all night. I have here more than a dozen examples of Mr Skelton's tweets denigrating Liberals such as Senator Brander, Scott Morrison, Joe Hockey and other current and former Liberal
he knows his facts,
leaders.
doesn't he?
So how can you credibly maintain that Mr Skelton is impartial and a suitable choice to be the ABC's fact-checker? And just a few little examples: Gordon nails Brandis, Morrison, the LP's one-trick pony.
Absolutely. Factually accurate at all points. What is your problem?
So what is your definition of nailed?
Brain backbencher slams Gestapo data.
There's many different
That was about
definitions
Mr.
of
Showboat.
that.
Joe's not the sharpest pencil in the box when it comes to numbers. Rudd wept and Julia triumphed. The honeymoon will be too long for that monk. All these from Mr Skelton. Are you still saying that you won't comment on individual tweets? There are dozens and dozens of them showing a partiality against the coalition.
In your biased
view. Do you,
view.
Mr Scott, understand
in your biased
that
view.
we in the coalition do not accept that this man will go about his task with impartiality, given
in
his
your biased view.
past track record of complete and utter partiality, including some quite offensive tweets?
Let me simply say, though, Senator, in response to that broad thrust, that Mr Skelton is a very experienced award-winning journalist.
Is this award-winning journalist the same one that has been twice criticised, once for a one-sided story about the Aboriginal intervention, and a second time once in relation to his age story, A Town Without Hope, about Aboriginal degradation in Balgo, a town Skelton didn't go to, and the story was accompanied by pictures of a camp 300 kilometres away? My source, ABC Media Watch.
That might well
and
be right.
In addition, is this the same award-winning journalist who has been accused of grossly inaccurate journalism and even making up interviews?
Well, Senator, I'm not aware of that detail. I'd say in the 20 years of Media Watch there are a great many journalists who from time to time have come to the attention of Media Watch. He is an experienced award-winning journalist, but finally he will be held to account for delivering to the ABC's editorial policies, which are the highest standards that operate for the practice of journalism anywhere in the country. There is a full accountability mechanism around that. Part of that accountability mechanism comes from the work of this committee, and if there are concerns about the performance of that unit, I'm sure will generate the attention.
It'll all be too late after the election. But look, let me now compare.
In what respect, sir?
Now let me compare all those expressions against coalition members, his expressions of opinion by your independent, impartial fact finder, with his views on the Prime Minister. What would you say about this tweet? Extraordinary times, JG at last behaving like a PM, ALP vote up, not down, beware the pundits. Isn't this just shameless barracking, pure and simple?
Yeah, just a biased view on it, Senator Abetz.
Well, Senator, as I said, I really think there's probably
little
point going through a whole series of tweets.
Well, they're very embarrassing. But what about this gushing tweet? Another take on Gillard PM, grace under pressure.
Very accurate.
I'm sure that's one Kevin Rudd wouldn't even agree with.
Factually accurate
But this is just cheese squad stuff, isn't it?
Factually accurate
This is just cheese squad stuff from the person
truth hurts, doesn't it?
that you have now appointed as allegedly the impartial fact finder. Do you still believe, given all this evidence, that Mr Skelton is still a suitable appointment to this task?
We'll judge him on the work that he does, Senator.
So, Mr Scott, would it surprise you to learn that Mr Skelton has sought to walk away from his endorsement of the highly contested assertion that 97% of scientists believe in human-induced climate change, only talking about the percentage figure, not the issue of climate change? Now, he only walked away from it after being challenged by the reputable Foundation Chair of Environmental Engineering at the University of Tasmania, amongst others, and we have the tweets there, where Mr Skelton said, yes, there really are 97% scientific consensus on global warming, and then when he was challenged, he lamely says, not my facts, they belong to somebody else. So what sort of fact-checking does he do when he's willing to tweet stuff without knowing its veracity, and then when he's picked up on it, simply says, well, not my facts? And do you know what? That last tweet occurred on the 22nd of May. I think he might have already been your fact-checker at that stage.